5 quarterbacks in the college football playoffs this year that can't be trusted. Starting off with Notre Dame quarterback Riley Leonard. Any quarterback that gets compared to a poor man's Daniel Jones can't be trusted. He's a really good runner. Riley Leonard, when he runs the football, he's like Mike Oslott at quarterback. He's going to run you over. He's really physical. He's not one of those quarterbacks that once he gets into the open field and there's a 240-pound, 6'3" linebacker coming at him, he ain't going to slide. He's going to put that shoulder down and he's going to try to run your ass over. So he's really tough. He's really gritty. But the problem with Riley Leonard is that he's not that accurate or that consistent as a passer. But the reasoning for why his limitations throwing the football haven't been exposed for most of this season is because Notre Dame has been so dominant running the football with Jeremiah Love. But once they get past Indiana and they end up having to face off against Georgia in the second round, I think that we start to see Riley Leonard's limitations come to fruition because Notre Dame isn't a team that's built to beat you throwing the football. Yeah, they got some good tight ends, but the wide receiver room is still not really that good. They don't really have anybody that's that consistent at getting open, creating separation against a secondary like Georgia's. So it's not all Riley Leonard's fault why he can't be completely trusted. It's just how Notre Dame is built. Notre Dame has never really been a team that has always produced elite wide receivers year in and year out. They got a few wide receivers that had came through there like Will Fuller and Chase Claypool, but this year they really don't have that much to hang their hat on if they have to win a game relying on Riley Leonard's arm. They just don't have the weaponry on the perimeter, and he's really just not that good throwing the football. So if you can stop the run game, you force Notre Dame to beat you with Riley Leonard's arm, it's hard to trust them. Quinn Ewers, if Mid was a quarterback, it would be him. It seems like his only good performance this season came early on when Texas went on the road to Ann Arbor and they slaughtered Michigan. After that, it's pretty much been a lot of average to slightly above average quarterback play, and all of Texas' biggest games this year, Quinn Ewers has not played up to par with the kind of standards that you had for him coming into this year, being somebody who has started multiple years with this program. He's a veteran in Steve Sarkisian's offense, and I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing Quinn Ewers get benched at some point in Texas' first round game against Clemson for Arch Manning. If Arch Manning was starting, I would pick Texas to win it all. The offense just looks more smoother with Arch Manning underneath center as compared to Quinn Ewers. He just starts games out too streaky. He's a really hot and cold quarterback. If he doesn't start the game out hot and Steve Sarkisian isn't able to script out the first 20 plays to get him in rhythm, it's tough sledding for Quinn Ewers. Now, statistically, against Georgia in the SEC championship, it looked like he had a great game from the box score. He threw for a bunch of yards, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. He had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and he just can't be trusted in late game situations with the game on the line. He just isn't clutch, doesn't really have a lot of poise, and he's not really that calm when he gets pressure in his face. When you can get after Quinn Ewers and you can get that pass rush going, he starts seeing ghosts out there, and he's not really the most athletic guy, so he can't extend plays, which is why you see Arch Manning coming in when they run read options or design quarterback runs, and I feel like that really limits Texas offense. And Steve Sarkisian has done a really good job of scheming around Quinn Ewers' limitations, but against Clemson, I really expect Quinn Ewers to struggle because Clemson does have a really formidable defensive line, and they got some pretty good corners as well. I can't trust Quinn Ewers in a spot like this, and I don't know how many of you Texas fans can trust him neither. Kevin Jennings for SMU. Now, this is a really good quarterback. I don't have him on this list because he sucks. I think the problem with Kevin Jennings is just that he can be a little bit of an enigma at times because he can get sloppy with the football. He can throw some really head-scratching interceptions at times, like against Duke. He had a lot of turnovers in that game. And against Clemson, in the first half and a few minutes into the third quarter, he wasn't really having that good of a game. He can kind of be a little bit up and down with his accuracy at times. He's just one of those up and down kind of players where there's certain moments in the game where he looks really good, and there's certain moments during the game when he doesn't look all that hot. And going up against Penn State with how much talent they have on that defensive line with Abdul Carter, the speed that they have in the secondary, I really can't trust Kevin Jennings. He's a nice quarterback. I think he's really good. I'm not putting him on this list because he sucks, because I do like his game a lot. I think he's one of the better dual threat quarterbacks in the nation. I just can't really trust him to take care of the football or just have an all-around consistent game in the playoffs. Next up, I got Ohio State quarterback Will Howard. Listen, I'm not trying to be racist, but it just seems like Ohio State's offense isn't that good when they have a quarterback that doesn't have any melanin in them. And, I think that's a little bit more truthful than it is me being a little bit racist, because when Ohio State's offense was good and when they were throwing the ball with a lot of efficiency with C.J. Stroud, Justin Fields, J.T. Barrett, Ohio State has just had way better quarterback in the past than what they've gotten out of Honda McCord and Will Howard these last couple of years. These are two quarterbacks that you probably would consider to be game managers. And it would be okay if you had a team like how Georgia had around Stetson Bennett when they won back-to-back, because although Stetson Bennett wasn't really an elite quarterback, the supporting cast he had around him was good enough to help elevate him along with the play calling. Ohio State doesn't really have that. The offensive line isn't that good. You got good receivers, but the run game hasn't been there. And Will Howard, he's just done enough to get Ohio State to the playoffs. I don't think that he's good enough to help elevate this team to a national championship level this year. It's just that with his interceptions, they just come at really bad moments. Like against Penn State, he threw a pick six to open up the game. Against Michigan, he wasn't good. And he really struggles in the red zone. And it's a little bit puzzling because he is a pretty athletic quarterback. He does have pretty good mobility. He has the ability to put his shoulder down and get a few extra yards after contact. But he kind of is a little bit of a slightly better version of what Riley Leonard is. I don't really think he's that great of a passer. He's a little bit of a better passer than Riley Leonard, but I don't really think the gap is too wide between him and Will Howard in terms of their ability to throw the football. And when I just look at Will Howard, it's just like, man, I don't really see him being a quarterback that is meant to lead Ohio State to glory. When I think of Ohio State quarterbacks, I think of transcendent level quarterback talents. Either you're a superior athlete at the quarterback position, you're like a Terrell Pryor, or you're a really good thrower of the football like C.J. Stroud was. I really just don't see the aura with Will Howard. And a lot of you Ohio State fans are probably going to say, well, JT, that's a BS analysis. But when you just watch Will Howard play, does this really look like a quarterback that you really can get behind, that you really believe can lead Ohio State and Ryan Day to their first championship under him? Post Urban Meyer, I don't see it. You got to prove me wrong, Will Howard. I'm going to be honest, I am hating on Will Howard because it's just, I just don't see it with Will Howard. I just don't see the juice. You feel me? Do y'all see the juice with Will Howard? Am I the only one who feels this way? I can't be the only person who feels this way about Will Howard. I really just don't see the it factor with him. I just don't. Against Michigan, that was all I needed to know. It's one thing to be C.J. Stroud and struggle against Michigan, because look what the brother did against Georgia. He balled out. Against Will Howard, I can't see him carrying the team, putting Ohio State on his back. I really don't see it. He's good enough to get them past Tennessee because Nico Iamaleava is the last quarterback on this list. And my problem with Nico Iamaleava is that he's just too young to trust in the playoffs. As a matter of fact, out of all of these quarterbacks in the CFP, he's the only one that has the least amount of experience because he is a redshirt freshman. And he hasn't played good on the road this year. If you take away his 4 touchdown performance, Tennessee's final game of the regular season, he only threw 2 touchdowns and had 2 interceptions in all of Tennessee's road games combined. He didn't play good against Oklahoma. He struggled against Georgia. And it's going to be tough sledding for him going up against one of the best defenses in college football. We seem to forget how good Jim Knowles' defenses have been the last 2 years at Ohio State. They got a really good pass rush with a really formidable secondary, and Nico just hasn't played his best football on the road. I just think with him being so young and inexperienced, he's going to struggle in a hostile road environment on the road in Columbus. So these are the 5 quarterbacks that you can't trust in the college football playoffs. I know a lot of y'all are going to disagree with me. I just know I'm not going to get any pushback on this list in the comment section below.